I still remember the first time I walked into the Chandy Club's grand hall. The way the chandeliers threw diamond-like reflections across the polished marble floors. Everyone moved with a purpose, a precision, as if every gesture was part of an unspoken game. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was 25, fresh out of St. Xavier's, and these were people who had inherited legacies worth more than my parents' entire street. Yet somehow I had the golden invite. The first person I met was Rohan Malhotra, leaning casually against the balcony rail as if he owned the city skyline. He had that effortless charisma that made you think he'd solved quantum physics before breakfast. Rohan didn't smile much, but when he did, it felt like currency, like I just gained social capital without even asking. "New blood," he said, barely glancing at me. "You must be ambitious." I nodded. Ambition was my only ticket, but I could feel he was testing me. In this world, a misstep wasn't just awkward, it was fatal. Not physically, of course, but socially, professionally, emotionally. One slip, and everyone who mattered would forget your name faster than you could blink. Dinner was an orchestration. Everyone sat where they were supposed to sit. Conversations overlapped like coded signals. I caught glimpses of deals being brokered in hushed tones between sips of vintage Bordeaux. I didn't understand half the jargon, but I noticed patterns. Observing was everything. Then there was Ananya Seth, a woman with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. She had recently taken over her family's real estate empire after her father's sudden passing, and she moved like she calculated risk in her sleep. She caught me staring once, tilted her head slightly, and I knew she was already plotting how I might fit or fail within her network. By the third week of attending these events, I had learned the code: every compliment was a test. Every handshake a potential trap, and every laugh a transaction. People weren't just networking, they were scanning, profiling, and assessing. Every glance was data. I was in a high-stakes chess game where no one had yet revealed their queen. My first real mistake came during a gala at a designer penthouse overlooking Marine Drive. I had been introduced to someone I thought was a socialite. In reality, he was a consultant who advised half the city's wealthiest families. I mispronounced a name, a small slip that felt like a sneeze in a hurricane. I watched him pause, smile politely, and pivot the conversation elsewhere. That pause burned itself into my memory. The first time I truly felt fear wasn't from money or status. It was the fear of being irrelevant. High society didn't forgive mediocrity, it ignored it entirely. I started analyzing every movement, every syllable, from the way people positioned their elbows at cocktail tables to how they placed their napkins. Everything mattered. Weeks passed and I began forming a pattern of alliances. I gravitated towards people like me, or at least people who reminded me of what I wanted to be. There was Arjun, a tech entrepreneur who had coded an app so successful it made him a billionaire before 30. There was Mira, an art curator with connections so vast she could make or break careers with a single gallery showing. And then there was Rohan, always watching, always measuring. It was at a winter charity ball, under a canopy of fairy lights in the Malabar Hills, that I realized the game's true depth. Conversations weren't about philanthropy, they were about power, influence, and subtly testing loyalty. Every smile I offered was an investment. Every word I withheld was insurance. By the end of the night, I had drafted mental maps of allegiances, weaknesses, and opportunities. I remember Ananya cornering me near the dessert table. "You're ambitious," she said again, as though it were both an accusation and an observation. "But ambition without subtlety is reckless." "I'm learning," I said. Her laugh was dry, calculated. "Good, you'll need it. Some of these people, they play to win, not to entertain." And she was right. One miscalculated alliance could ruin your reputation permanently. It was a high society ecosystem that didn't just consume, you had to evolve or be extinct. I spent the following months embedding myself deeper. Invitations to private dinners, yacht parties, and curated gallery openings became routine. Every event was a test, every toast a potential negotiation. I learned to listen for unsaid rules and read micro-expressions like blueprints. Then came the night that changed everything. I was attending a masquerade at a Billionaires' heritage villa outside Pune. Everyone was masked. The anonymity is supposed to encourage honesty, but the truth was more dangerous than the masks themselves. Rohan approached me, his face partially obscured by a Venetian mask. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. I hesitated. "You're here because you've shown promise," he said. "But you've also shown fear." Fear is fine, it's human. But you can't let it guide you. I nodded, realizing that I had been performing too cautiously, always analyzing, never acting. That night, I decided to take a calculated risk. I confronted a notorious dealmaker, someone known for crushing upstarts about a merger I thought I could influence. The conversation was tense. Every word had to be precise. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I held my ground. By the end, he laughed not mockingly, but approvingly and nodded. I had earned a measure of respect. After the masquerade, I understood something vital. High society in India wasn't about inherited wealth or flashy titles. It was about understanding the invisible rules of influence and manipulation. It was about being a master of observation, action, and timing. And most of all, it was about learning which battles to fight and which to watch from the shadows. In the following months, my life became a sequence of calculated moves, friendships, and alliances. I knew my path wouldn't be easy and there would be missteps, but I had begun to see the board in its entirety. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was playing. Now, when I walk into a room full of the city's elite, I move with purpose. I know which smiles are genuine, which are currency, and which are traps. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I hear Rohan's words, "Fear is human, but it cannot guide you." I have yet to fully win this game, but for the first time, I am not afraid to play.